of the Indian and Chinese armies in the Galwan Valley. Let me show you a map of where things really happened. Here is Rahul explaining in crystal clarity where this clash happened.
We want to give our viewers a sense of where along the line of actual control this very unfortunate incident, which hasn't happened in 4 decades, a clash leading to deaths on either side of the line of actual control has taken place. So I'll take you map by map over 4 maps and try and give you a sense of what's happening along the line of actual control. This is the overall map of the state. This, as you know, is the line of control. On the other side, you've got the Pakistani army. On this side, you've got the Indian army, very extensively deployed. The area marked out in red shows Jammu and Kashmir. And then this is the Union territory of Ladakh. And the dotted line, the dotted black line, shows the line of actual control. And very close to the line of actual control is the Galwan face-off point. And I'm going to zoom in and take you closer. This is the capital of Ladakh, Leh. This is the famous Hemis Monastery. If you've seen lots of Bollywood films, you have to, it's a stunning, one of the most important monasteries in the Ladakh area. And as you drive up that road, you reach a village called Darbuk. Now from Darbuk to Daulat Beg Oldi, this is the DSDBO road, which has been much in the news over the last several days. It's 323 kilometers long, and it goes all along the Shyok River. The Shyok River is called the River of Death, and the reason that it's called the River of Death is because in time gone by, cavalcades of traders, caravans of traders used to use the Shyok River, especially during the winters when the river would freeze over, to go towards Xinjiang, across the mountain passes, across the Karakoram on the other side, to do trade in spices and silk and bring back wares as well. So what would happen is that in the summer, there's a very fast pace that the water flows in, as a result of which very often, whether if you're on a pony or a mule, the trader would fall into the water. Many traders died, just drifted with the water flow, and that's why it was called the River of Death, Shyok meaning death. So that's the river along which this road is built, and that passes very close to the line of actual control. It almost runs parallel all the way up to Daulat Beg Oldi, which is also called Subsector North, where we have a very important strategic advanced landing ground, ALG. So I'm going to go slightly closer, and just for general reference, this is the Pangong Lake, which is also a major point of confrontation, where about 1/3 of the lake is controlled by the Indians, 2/3 is controlled by the Chinese army, and the current flashpoint is at 4. So I want to now go to the third and a more zoomed in version of this map. So this is the DSDBO road that I just showed you, and along the road are 2 ITBP posts, and opposite, about 8 kilometers away, is Patrol Point 14, the Galwan Flashpoint. And why this is called the Galwan Flashpoint is because this blue line represents the Galwan River. It's a very, very narrow river gorge, and what the Chinese have done is that till about 2016, according to the satellite images that we accessed, and remember, we are restricted in our storytelling because we can only go by open source satellite images, and that's why it's taken so many hours of intensive work to put these maps together, because this is not, it's not like, you know, if you're going from Bandra to Santa Cruz, you can just put in the coordinates in Google Maps and it'll take you there. There's no such detailed coordinates available, unfortunately, along here. So what we know is that this is the People's Liberation Army, that's the Chinese army, Huishan base, which is their battalion headquarters, and they've got 2 posts which are located along the Galwan River. And what they did towards the end of April or early May is that along this river, because they've got a pakka road, a tarred road coming virtually halfway, and then there is a kacha road, which is like a dirt track going fairly close to PP14, they brought in their troops. So they brought in just personnel, Chinese army personnel to start with, and they came and deployed themselves very close to Patrol Point 14. Now, why this is called a patrol point is because earlier there would be no permanent deployment here. The army, the Indian army would come and patrol, not just PP14, but along the entire ridge line. The Chinese army would come and patrol. It's inhospitable. There's no way that in the winters you can even survive here. They'd come and do a few rounds of patrolling and they'd pull back. But what the Chinese did this time is that they came and they plonked themselves over there. and that's why the Indians were alarmed. So I want to take you through to the next map, which gives you a closer sense of what's happening. So this is the Galwan River. It flows into the Shyok River. This is the point of confluence. What the Indians were doing, we're told, is that we were building a road from here, which is the DSDBO road. An extension was being built towards PP14, and the Chinese claim that they have a problem with this, which, you know, for our viewers to understand is terribly unfair, because as I showed you on the previous map, the Chinese have already built extensive roadways all along their side of the line of control, which is when in years gone by the Indian government wasn't as responsive and we didn't build military infrastructure in quite the same way. So they've built their road infrastructure when we were trying to extend the DSDBO road, and we're trying to do this in different places so our boys can come and patrol. Now the problem is, and if you just think of it rationally, if you've got a road in which your troops can come and they can come all the way here, and the Indian armies had to come out from this post and in the heights trek all the way up, by the time they get to the post, you're already tired. You've already spent several hours just trying to get there, while the Chinese have been able to drive in their motor vehicles, and that's really a big advantage militarily. So we're trying to neutralize that advantage by building an extension, and the Chinese were unhappy about that. Now, let's come to what happened just over the last few days. Now, the Chinese have come and deployed here. We were told by the Indian Army that there was gradual de-escalation happening, which means that the Chinese troops were pulling back from here. Our ask is very simple. Go back to Chinese post 1 and 2, which is where you came from, and do not stop us from building the road, because we're not listening to you. You know that 11,000 plus personnel of laborers from Jharkhand are being brought on special railway trains, and they're being taken to different parts, Eastern Ladakh, Uttarakhand. The BRO at this moment, that's the Border Roads Organization, trying to build 61 strategic roads, which we hope to complete over the next several months, so that we have extension services, that we can really move our troops much faster than is possible. So that's really the flashpoint. We don't specifically know what happened in this area, but what we do know, and that's what our reporters and Shiv and Gaurav and everybody else have been telling you, is that during this period, first the Chinese didn't de-escalate in the way that they promised that they would. They stayed there with heavy deployment, and in that process something went wrong. We are expecting more details, which led to a military clash, and there's been some fisticuffs. We've also had some nunchakus flying, we've had some rods, some barbed wire. This kind of stuff has happened in the past, but that just takes it to a whole different level of escalation, and we're right now in a very, very tense situation.
I want to bring General Kulkarni back in on this. General Kulkarni, the fact that brigadiers are now speaking on the ground, I just want to get your sense, sir, of what would they be talking about? You know, just give us a sense of what is there to talk about when you've got casualties of this kind. You know, what would the nature of the conversation be like, sir? Will it be hot-tempered? Will people be calm? What is it going to be like?
Shiv, I think the talks even may have been upgraded to even the GOC's level. I'm sure the GOC 3 Dev himself must be now involved in trying to talk to his counterpart on the other side, besides the brigadier level talks. Because as I understand, and whatever the inputs that we have now, is that there has been a very, very violent scuffle. Extremely violent scuffle, and that has what has resulted. And since the scuffle has taken place in the evening, it all kinds. It would be right to say free for all, less firing, and therefore the aspect what I understand now, there has been no firing, but the scuffle has been extremely violent, resulting in the death of 3 and possibly serious casualties to some more. Because if the commanding officer is there, he would not be with just 2 or 3 men. He would have a sizable number of men along with him, and that probably has led to the casualties on our side. And now this is something which is equally dangerous, because if two sides are not, even if you're able to understand, and if the kind of casualties that the Chinese have caused by scuffle is indicative of the kind of things that they may have come over there on the spot to be able to target the Indian soldiers. That's the first and the foremost. Now, having said so, and now we are saying again and again that since 1967, not a bullet has been fired, not a bullet has been fired. Good enough, bullet has not been fired. There have been some scuffles, but not so violent, which leads to death.
Yeah.
And therefore, I think it's essential, and it must have occurred both at the brigade commander's level, which must be going on at Patrol Point 14, and of course at Chushul, probably the level would have been raised and the talks may be going on between the GOC3 and his counterpart on the other end to de-escalate the situation and to be able to tell the troops that don't get so violent. We have a misunderstanding.
General Kulkarni, stand by. We're just getting some news in that we've got a statement from the Chinese Foreign Office. Let's just play out that soundbite for you. The Foreign Office from China making its first reaction now.
我没有得到你的有关的信息。近来为缓和中印两国边境地区形势，中印双方通过外交和军事渠道保持密切沟通。中方已就此向印方提出强烈抗议和严正交涉，再次郑重要求印方切实按照有关精神，严格约束一线部队，不得越线活动，不得挑衅滋事，不得采取任何导致边境局势复杂化的单方面举动。中印双方同意继续通过对话协商解决双边有关问题，为缓和边境地区局势、维护边境地区和平与安宁做出努力。
Just want to read out for you once again what the Foreign Office of China has said. China has lodged a solemn protest to India. Here we are sternly demanding India to earnestly abide by relevant agreement and strictly restrain their frontline troops. They should not cross the border lines, says China. And also want to read out what, you see, ladies and gentlemen, the Chinese establishment and Chinese journalists can't tweet anything without permission from the establishment, especially from Global Times. They've all confirmed that casualties have happened on the Chinese side, but those numbers have not come out just yet. I want to be very categorical. There are no official numbers that have come out just yet, and there's a chance that we may never know what those numbers are, but sources are saying that at least 3 Chinese personnel have also been killed in these very, very violent clashes. Another journalist called Shen Shiwei, who is part of CGTN, which is the Chinese Global Times network, the CGTN, which is the network in China, which is the television network in China, he's tweeted, sources confirmed Chinese side also suffered casualties in the Galwan Valley physical clash along the China-India LAC. India has been provoking territorial issues not only with China but also with Nepal recently. So all journalists in China also take this hawkish editorial stand as far as India is concerned. We, of course, have been putting out only information, not telling the Chinese what to do. The Chinese journalists put out information, incomplete information, confirming casualties, but also have an editorial sort of advice for the Indian government. So we can ignore that. But the fact is, for whoever's watching from the Chinese embassy, from Global Times, and I know they watch India Today because I get a lot of reactions from them, please give us the numbers. Put out the numbers. The Indian Army has put out the numbers which are at 3. That number could go up, but we will only report whatever is officially given to us. And in India, those numbers cannot be hidden. That's the reason why India Today was the first to report that there were 3 casualties on the Indian side. So can the Chinese now confirm how many casualties have taken place on the Chinese side? I don't wish to make this your numbers versus our numbers, but in a situation like this, Major General Sivach, you will agree with me as well that data is of essence. As the two sides look to de-escalate, as people from both countries are watching this developing situation, it's very important to actually put out these details in as specific a manner as possible so that people can judge for themselves the nature of this particular clash. I'm going to go across to India Today's Gaurav Sawant. Do we have Gaurav Sawant? I'm going to ask. We don't have Gaurav Sawant with us. We have General P.K. Sehgal is still with us. General Sehgal, isn't it important for China now to come out and give out its casualty figures? And do you think they will? Many verified accounts have come out and said, yes, casualties have happened. But should we be confident that numbers will be released?
Chinese, even if they release the numbers, there will be no transparency. They will fudge them.
Exactly.
Even if you remember in case of Corona, while the world thinks that lakhs of people had died in Wuhan, they're only saying about 4,600 died. So Chinese will hide the figures. They will not let their people know that they suffered a reverse at the hands of India. As far as India is concerned, we have lost an institution called a commanding officer, and a loss of institution is a very serious loss, and we're not going to take it lying down. Chinese have experienced our resolve, Chinese have experienced our strength, and I'm very, very certain that they will prolong their dialogue, they'll prolong their discussion because they want certain political concessions from us. We told them very categorically that infrastructure development will not stop. There will be no compromise on national pride, sovereignty, or integrity as far as territorial integrity is concerned. And there is going to be no budging absolutely as far as that is concerned. So what is it that Chinese would want from us? They would want major political and diplomatic concessions from us, particularly pertaining to Wuhan, pertaining to WHO, pertaining to Hong Kong, Taiwan, etc. And that is where our politics would come into play in a very major way. The solution eventually would be at the political level, not at the military level, not at the diplomatic level, and it will be at the highest political level. And I wish to reiterate again and again, any delay beyond a certain acceptable time limit would be a major disadvantage to China as against India. China has clearly seen India's resolve. The way we built up and matched up their strength in totality actually surprised them. They had come to stay. But we actually forced them to recoil and get back. We've told them absolutely no uncertain terms that they have to vacate the aggression, and there's no compromise as far as that is concerned. It will be a major loss of face if they do so without taking some major concessions out of us. What those concessions is, but we can perceive, but we can't spell that at this point of time. And I'm not too sure whether the present dispensation of ours, the strong political leadership, will agree to down to China.
I want to figure out what the next step is. I think that the most important point here is yes,